Big one. I'm telling you, this feels like a 2-game swing because of the momentum that you're going to have in one direction or the other. Either you stop the bleeding and you get right, and the vibes are good flying across the country coming back, or you find yourself in a big-time hole. It's not end of the world scenario,
right?
But you're up against it. Now You're looking at basically you're probably not going to be the 1 or 2 seed.
Right.
And now it's down to the NFC West only. That's really what you're looking at. And so, again, not the end of the world, doesn't end the season, but Bonte, they got to get this thing right. And then just vibes. Vibes alone. We talk a lot about vibes when it comes to the Golden State Warriors. What about the Niner vibes? I'm tired of the finger pointing. I'm tired of it. We need a win. I'm tired of the excuses. I'm tired of all of the chatter about what the tiny little adjustments could, would, should be. I mean, the time to talk is over, and the time to go out and put Trevor Lawrence on his back is now.
No, it is now. It is now. And and we'll get into the numbers with Trevor Lawrence and their running game and the Niners running game. And by the way, shout out to the consultants. All right, Arthur, good morning to the consultants. And Danny Golding listening all the way from London. He's about to fly back to Phoenix, so shout out to Danny Golden out there in London, across the pond.
Nice.
Look, the Jaguars love to run the ball, and Travis Etienne. That's why I say it starts with the front four. Because you got a guy like Travis Etienne who's broken 21 tackles on the season. And he's averaging about 120. The Jaguars as a team are averaging about 112 rush yards per game. We'll get into the Niners numbers when it comes to rushing because they're not running the ball well at all. When you take away Brock Purdy's production, the Niners, Shasky, they've got 56 carries in the last 3 games, 203 yards. That's 3.6 yards a carry.
It's not good.
That's just not good enough. It's not good enough. And the defense, and this is why it starts with the defensive line. Defense has given up 122 yards per game on the ground the last 3 weeks. Last 3 games, I should say. That's 4.4 yards a carry. 4.4 yards a carry. This 49ers defense give it up on the ground. So that's why it doesn't just mean get after the quarterback and put Trevor Lawrence on your back. It's also, you got to snuff out Travis Etienne because everything revolves around him and his Jaguars offense. The play action pass, the screen passes. When he's rolling, all of a sudden Trevor Lawrence has got the ball fakes. He's play action passing. Boop, there's Ingram over the middle. Boop, there's Ridley down the field. Boop, there's Christian Kirk in the slot. Boop, there's Zay Jones, who's a big target for him. So I think it all starts with this defensive line, and that's stopping the run, and that's getting after Trevor Lawrence.
What has happened to their run game, stuffing, in terms of defense? What exactly is it? I know we talk a lot, like people like, what's the wide 9? Let's do wide 9. I mean,
they've been on the field a lot, Shasky, the last 3 weeks.
What is it? Like, in particular, are they getting gashed up the middle? Are they getting gashed on the edges?
Well, I think Mixon, it's 2 things.
Okay.
The edges. Cleveland got to the edges.
Yes.
Ford and Hunt got to the edges.
I agree.
And that's where the Jaguars love to thrive in their run game. They love to get to the edges. So that's Bosa, that's Chase Young, that's Cleve Farrell, that's Randy Gregory. I don't even know if Jake Jackson's going to dress this week, believe it or not. He might be in street clothes. Might be inactive.
I mean, he hasn't really earned himself enough leeway right now. I mean, he had an opportunity.
But those guys haven't set the edge, Shasky,
really
to your point. The edges in Cleveland.
I also think that Drake Greenlaw, being in and out of the lineup and being physically compromised, you could tell. Like, he is one of the more sure tacklers on the team. We haven't seen that the last couple of weeks.
But you also look at how much these other teams have been on the field the last 2 weeks. That's true. Cleveland controlled the clock. Minnesota was control of the clock. So not only are they getting on the edge, you saw the last game against Cincinnati a couple of Sundays ago, Mixon ran up the middle. And he was able to soften that defense up the middle, which allowed Joe Burrow to just sit back and have all the time in the world and make plays with his legs when he needed to, make timely throws. I mean, he made a throw coming off that Geronimo, that Pratt interception at the end of the third quarter. First play after that drive. Burrow play action pass. T. Higgins just smokes Tarvarius Ward, and he beats Gibson Jr. on the double team, and he's wide open for a big chunk play. So the run game has allowed these teams to utilize their play action pass. Even though Minnesota overall didn't have good numbers in the run game, I thought the first half of that football game, they ran the ball well, which established their pass game. So it's a little bit of the edges, and it's a little bit up the middle. But the edges is disappointing when you think about it because it is number 97,
that's what I'm saying.
Bosa, and he's allowing guys to set the edge on him. That's not good enough.
I also would say, furthermore, the play calling opposite the Niners, meaning the offensive play callers, they have used the over-aggression against the Niners. How many screens have worked in the last 3 weeks?
It's worked a ton. Even when teams don't get a first down, they're getting big yardage on the screen play.
It really feels like
Minnesota had a long 3rd and 11. They ran a screen pass, boom, first down. Extend the drive. So
even the Joku back to the Cleveland game had multiple screens. Multiple more called back, by the way.
Right.
Successful screens, though.
Right.
Really nice screens. They weren't even to the running backs. It feels like over-pursuing and using their aggression against them has really worked. And I think you need to credit Stefanski and O'Connell, and then recently, obviously, Zach Taylor. Like, when you time up a screen perfectly, it feels like it really can screw this defense.
No, it can. By the way, this is Football Friday brought to you by First 5 California. To learn 4 things you can do to overcome toxic stress, go to first5california.com. How many 49er fans has used that website over the last 3 weeks? I know I need to start using it. What can I do to overcome this toxic stress going on with Steve Wilks coming down to the field? Now, here's Steve Wilks on moving down to the sideline.
Just very candid. I think we're making a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be honest. But I just want to be able to communicate with the guys a little bit more during the game. You know, certain things that I'm seeing, I'd rather be able to talk to them directly than, to communicate with coaches. I think our coaches do a great job, number one, throughout the week, but also in-game adjustments. That's one of the things I've really, pride ourselves on, and how we communicate as a staff and making the right things throughout the game. So it's just really with me, just wanting to be able to communicate with those guys a little bit more.
All right, so that's Steve Wilks on moving down to the sideline. And then he was asked if upping the energy on the sideline is a reason for moving down to the sideline.
To be honest, when you look at our guys, and I've been doing this for a while, I don't think that's part of what they're missing and what they need. Sometimes it can be good. I think, we all feed off each other. Coaches, we feed off one another. I feed off the players. So, it depends. But I think it's more or less in the communication part that we can, have that dialogue, direct, face-to-face, and try to make the adjustment that we need to make throughout the game.
Now, when it comes to energy, Shasky, I did notice something. You talk about a screenplay. So in the Cincinnati game, third quarter, they run a screenplay. And the Niners stuff them. And whenever teams, defenses, they shut you down on third down, they prevent you from getting the first down. They always throw their fist up. Fist up. I can hear Baldy now when one of his broadies break down. Fist up, fourth down. Fourth down. Everybody's hopping around, right? They throw up the fours.
Yeah.
Well, in that Cincinnati game, the Niners are down 17-10. And we're literally, it's Lucas Alexander, our director of sports, Matt Nahigian, our program director, Sam Lubman. And we're watching the highlights here. And I go, Matt, rewind it, because we've been talking about energy and the rah-rah stuff, and I've been anti-rah-rah. Cincinnati runs a screen. Niners stuff them, about 3 yards short of the fourth down, of the first down.
Yeah.
And usually you see the fours up.
Uh-huh.
They stopped them, and they just were looking around. No juice. And I go back to the Belichick, and that's on the field. That's on the field. And that's on the players. And that's on the players. You should be excited. It's 17-10. You just forced a punt. You're not having your way. And nobody was flying around saying, fourth down, let's get off the field. Exactly. It was almost as if they gave up a first down. And I remember Belichick in his football life, when he told his players, remember he's in the auditorium, he's like, look at this. You guys just made a play. You should celebrate that. You work all week to prepare. You work all week to shut this offense down. Show some excitement here. And I saw that, and I was like, oh, boy, this team looked tired. They looked lifeless.
Lethargic.
So hopefully, this defense used the bye week to get that energy back up and be excited about making plays and forcing punts.
I'm glad you acknowledged that because, look, I know I don't care about Steve Wilks, particularly the guy who's calling plays.
Right.
I don't care if he's in the booth or on the field. But I was trying to explain that earlier this week, and we can argue till we're blue in the face. The players need to bring the juice.
Yeah.
But in years past, they did have a guy on the sideline who also coincided having to be the play caller. So again, it doesn't matter if it's the play caller. You got to have somebody who's like that dude. And every team needs that, whether it's a Bazemore on the bench, a Pablo Sandoval in the dugout, or in the case of the Niners the last couple of years, D'Amico or Robert Saleh on the sidelines. Someone's got to step up. And Dre Greenlaw has been a guy like that. Fred Warner traditionally has been a guy like that, where you got to tamp him down. He's too excited.
And nobody was excited. This particular play, everybody's just kind of looking around, and they just kind of walk out the field.
I'm glad you explained that.
So when it comes to energy,
they had no life.
That's on the players.
No, I'm with you.
You make a play, like, why aren't they excited?
But they used to have a safety in Jimmy Ward who was a very excitable guy. He maybe wasn't rah-rah dude, but he would get in guys' face masks.
But when Hufanga last year was all excited and everything.
What happened to Hufanga?
He was in on that play. He wasn't excited. So when we talk about rah-rah stuff, I just noticed it. I was like, oh, wow. They forced Cincinnati to a punt.
Yeah.
It's 17-10, and they're just looking around. And I was like, where's the juice? Well, you just forced to punt every defense you see in the league. College, high school, pro. You get a fourth down, fist up in the air. Hey, fourth down, let's go. Fourth down. Like you get the crowd fired up, and there was none of that.
Well, and I always look to my linebackers and safeties. So like when I think about when the Niners were humming, right? They had multiple linebackers. I'm talking about the Harbaugh era. Multiple linebackers who would be rah-rah dudes. And even Willis, he grew into that role. That wasn't his role per se. But then you had the two guys on the back end, Deshaun Goldson and Dante Whitner, who would also chirp.
Right.
Like crazy. Mm-hmm. And so, like, when I used to think of, like, Deshaun Goldson, by the way, is on the 49ers defensive staff. Did you know that?
Right. Yeah, I did. He got a coaching internship in the summer.
I didn't know that until recently. And David Lombardi had wrote that in the article.
He was part of the Bill Walsh Fellowship, I
didn't know that. Anyway,
no, that happened in July.
Yeah, but point being is that Deshaun Goldson used to come flying. Remember when he used to do the hawk thing and all that? And they would get a lot of juice from that. I need a safety or a linebacker to play with some thump here.
Yeah, I looked at that one play, and it was a cherry on top. Encapsulated what's going on with this defense. And they're just not playing with any fun. They just were not having fun in that Cincinnati game. And I just was shocked. And now you look at the numbers here in the last 3 weeks or the last 3 games for the 49ers. One thing is when you know teams are running the ball or they're having success extending drives, they win a time of possession game. Cleveland, 33 minutes of time of possession.
And that's part of the Shanahan way because of stuff in the run and establishing.
And they love to control the clock.
Yeah.
But Cleveland, 33 minutes of time of possession. Minnesota, 34 minutes of time of possession. Cincinnati, 31 and a half minutes of time of possession. So they're losing the time of possession games. Why? Because their offense is not extending drives and they're not running the football. Again, the 49ers averaging just 3.6 yards per carry the last 3 weeks when you take away Brock Purdy's scrambles. When you take away his scrambles, Brock Purdy, Niners, 56 carries, 203 yards, averaging 3.6 yards per carry from their running backs or wide receivers or whoever's running the ball. So they've got to get back to controlling the line of scrimmage. And that's what this week is about for me, Shasky. It's controlling the line of scrimmage. But the guys who's got to set the tone is the highest paid defensive line in football, and that's Bosa, Armstead, Hargrave, and Chase Young.
Undeniable. I mean, I need a Bosa game. He hasn't had a when was the last Bosa signature game?
Raiders, Vegas.
I mean, it was really the second half. Is that what you like?
Raiders, Vegas.
I know, and I feel like we're searching.
That's
I was gonna go maybe the Tampa Bay game. Maybe the Miami.
Before that?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking 10, 11.
He was really good in that Raider game. Remember, he forced the interception.
In the fourth quarter. He was great.
Fourth quarter overtime.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, I'll give you the Raider game.
I mean.
How many games ago was that?
Dude, that was a long time ago.
I mean, that's a long time.
That was New Year's Day.
I mean, he really needs to get himself going here. I mean, he really does. Like, You're the highest paid player on the team, dude. You got to step it up. And I know we've talked a lot about Bosa, and I don't want to hear about PFF pressure rakes anymore. Get some sacks, dog. When I watch Max Crosby, and again, I'm late to this Max Crosby party, but when I watch him, game-wrecking every play.
No, Max Crosby.
Am I wrong?
Max Crosby's legit.
When I watch Aaron Donald, when he was in his prime, and I still believe him to be in his prime, but not as much now because they don't have any players around him, he's all over the ball.
Well, think about when Baldy was talking to us about Max Crosby, and he joined us in studio, and he said, he said Max Crosby right now is the best defensive end of football. And he got a text from Bosa, or Bosa caught up to him on the field and was like, yeah, I heard what you said about Max Crosby. Well, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to show you. I'm the DPOY.
Well, show me.
And so maybe we need Baldy to say it again. Hey, Baldy, how about you call the show and say Max Crosby, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, pick a player on the Baltimore Ravens is playing better than Bosa.
Well, remember what he told you too, Bonte. He's like, well, he's not playing December and into January and February, and I am, so I have to keep myself fresh.
Well, we will not be playing in February with this version of Bosa.
There you go.
Well, and by the way, you kept yourself fresh, and you didn't get a sack in January and you didn't make it to February last postseason. So I don't want to hear from it. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Like, you didn't get a sec.
Conservation.
Right.
And then
you saved your energy for what? You saved your energy to not get sacked?
That's a great point.
What are we doing here, small bear? Come on, baby. I need you to be a big bear this week. So to me, Shasky.
Don't be a Cub.
Right. Don't be a Cub.